Hi, church.
Hi, church.
What does First United Methodist Church mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. It's been a mainstay for my experience, my spiritual experience.
You know, I love everything about this church. We've always had wonderful pastors and music and the people, and I've been here all my life, so it's just a wonderful, a big package of beauty for me. But
We have joined the church here in 1990, my husband and I. We had always heard that it was a wonderful church.
I have attended with my mother and daddy, and I have actually sat with them the entire time, maybe except when I was a teenager. We have sat together in church, and it's just on Sunday morning, that's our time together.
We just found so much cooperation, friendship. We just enjoyed this church so much. And you keep meeting new friends no matter how many years you've been here. So that's one of the things that we really, truly love.
Well, we moved to Pascagoula in 1958, and I was in the 10th grade, and my mother and daddy brought me to this church. And I've stayed all these years. I guess because my mom and dad were here, because I love the people.
When we walked in the door, we were welcomed by committees, and they ushered us right away to a Sunday school room, and which we've been a part ever since. And all the many activities. There's so many activities here and classes, wonderful teachers, godly teachers we have.
I went to Doc Roberts to Susanna Wesley Circle, and I was hooked. I was 20 years old, so, you know, it was a good thing that I got in on the right road, I think. But one of the most memorable thing to me is the people, this wonderful community of believers.
Once when John Ash had a whole group of us meet down to the city park, and we did communion down there, and it was so nice to give communion to another person that even though it wasn't elaborate, it was very, very impressive.
And I always looked up to the ushers. It was an elite group, a special group, and I wanted to become an usher. I sang in the choir for a couple of years, and then I tried the ushering.
But we have thoroughly enjoyed it here, and we've had wonderful, wonderful pastors, godly pastors at this church.
When we left Mendenhall to relocate here, the pastor met us at the new residence and invited us to church. We were going to shop around, you know, but we didn't have a change. He was there to meet us. And
Brother Jim collapsed at the pulpit, and I went downstairs to assist the ambulance and paramedics coming in. And I walked upstairs, and I saw everybody praying, singing, raising their hands. It was like a band of angels singing. And I knew then that Jim was going to be okay, because God was in this church, and his angels were flying overhead.
growing, learning and growing closer to God, and, you know, growing in my faith from being in this church is probably, it is the most important thing.
I think one of the most touching times for me was after the storm, when we all met in the gym, and everything was so casual. Everybody was so glad to see each other, so much love, you know, so much fellowship, and I just think that was one of the most precious times in our church. I mean, the Holy Spirit was truly with us.
I remember they would always have a cleanup party where the whole church would come together and paint, clean the church up, and that was special. Being with our church family, doing something for the good. This was God's house, and we kept it as God's house.
Every Christmas Eve, it was just my thing that I wanted my entire family to be here on Christmas Eve. And that happened for a number of years until we, got grandkids and stuff like that, and everybody started going their separate ways. But all my kids knew that on Christmas Eve, I expected them to be here.
Was meeting my husband here in this church. In 1950, the pastor had asked him if he would be the director of the new Youth for Christ. It had just begun here on the coast. And I met him by coming here on Saturday night.
We had a group called Dynasty that a lot of the youth wanted to get together and have a singing group that toured, and that was special in my life.
3.5 years ago, I was as lost can get, and God led me to our church, and since then our church family has loved and cared for my daughter and I, Lexi, and has blessed us in many, many ways, and we're so grateful to God that we have a church family. And today we know the definition of that.
What's the funniest thing that ever happened to you here at First Methodist?
We can't disclose of them.
Well, it has everything in the world to do with phones going off in the sanctuary. It was during the production, or the Messiah chorus, one Sunday. We were hosting it at our church, and right behind us, we heard a phone that started ringing, and then we heard it kept ringing, and the lady behind us said something like, "This isn't my phone. I'm holding it for someone in the chorus, and I don't know how to turn it off." And about that time, it flew up front on our pew
Into my lap. And it kept ringing. And I looked at it, and I mean, when I say cell phone, I've told you all I know about the new modern technology.
I remember the youth used to sit in the very back pews, and a lot of our parents sang in the choir, and they would always stretch their neck like ostriches to see what we were doing. And once we got caught, that was it. We knew we were in trouble when we got home.
Well, probably one of the most embarrassing things is when my daughter was acting up in church and I pinched her and she hollered out and said, "Don't pinch me, Mother." I said, "Okay."
Tell us about that fun costume party you mentioned to us earlier.
Oh, yes, we had the best time that day, and it was just amazing how those older people, the joyous just over youth, participated. They went all out, and we've had so many, many remembrances of these old people.
Brother Cates dressed up as a woman during the dating game I spoke of earlier. And my dad dressed up like Tiny Tim, and he came out with the ukulele and shrugged his hair around to the side.
We had our golden wedding anniversary here and renewed our vows, and I couldn't find the ring. I had put it in my pocket, and it went in the little inside pocket. So when it came time to get the ring, I couldn't find the ring.
We were up at the communion table having communion that Sunday, and the guy that was next to me, he broke the communion chip in half, and it just snapped real loud. It was the wafer type, and we started laughing. And my dad was an usher at the time, and he was up sort of standing behind me, and I tried everything I could to keep from laughing. But it was so funny to us, I think it started being funny to other people.
When I got married, our wedding was the first wedding that Brother Cates had. He came here in June and he married us in August. So we were the first wedding in this church. So at my rehearsal supper, my granddaddy and grandmother were here from Mendenhall, and we sent him to the store to get some lemons, and he never came back. He got lost.
How many years have you been a member here?
55 years.
I'm not the best person, the best Christian. but is there a best Christian? I know where I stand. I know who my God is. I know where I can come for comfort. And really, that's what this church means to me. When you joined the church, you made an oath that you would give with your prayers, your tithes, your talents. And I still haven't found my talent, I don't guess, that I know of, but I know one of the talents is you need to serve. And this church has always come through all the difficult times. And people have stood together. And I'm proud to be a member of this church.
First United Methodist Church means the world to me right now. It's just my rock. It's absolutely my rock.
I'm here to stay. So this church and I have a long-standing relationship. And I guess as long as this church is still around, I'll be buried in this church one day.
So it's been a great experience being a member of this church.
So yes, this church does mean a lot. It's made my life.
We love you.
We do.
Love you.
Thank you, church.
Thank you, church.
Thank you, church.